We're talking about Merle Haggard, the guy that didn't show up for me in Roseburg. He was playing a fair for me. I was doing a fair in Vancouver, the Clark County Fair. And he and his wife had a riff, and he walked off the stage there and got in his bus and drove back to his house down there in California. He was supposed to stop the next day and do Roseburg, but he didn't. He just drove on through. So we kind of had a falling out, but he did come back to Roseburg 2 years later and apologized to the town and to me and everybody. And so my feeling about him was, yeah, he was a good guy. He was a good guy. Johnny Cash. Everybody said he's a problem. Never had a problem with him. Always did great shows. Lou Robbins, his manager, was a great guy. Never had a problem with Johnny Cash. Well, he does this, this, and this. Never saw that. If he did those things, I never saw it. Oh, we had this reporter from Portland show up to do that AM show with him. They did it at the fairgrounds the day of his show in the morning, and we filmed it right on the stage where the show was. And we had an earlier meeting, would you do it? And I had Dwight Butt come in, and so he knew that we said to him, do not bring up anything to Johnny Cash about going to jail or drugs. As far as I know, Johnny Cash never went to jail. He was held one time for an hour because there were some questions, but as far as I know, I never saw him drunk, use drugs. I never saw him as a problem. His family was always there. June was a sweetheart. The daughter, her daughters, I mean, it was just always a good deal. Anyway, we told him, he said, do not bring that up. Okay, I won't. Because if you are, we're not going to do it. I won't do it. So we meet at 9 o'clock in the morning for that AM show, and John, I had to go get Johnny and picked him up in the car. And he came and took him on stage. And this interviewer said, Johnny Cash, you're here tonight? Yeah. Second question out of his mouth, how much time did you do in jail? Johnny Cash looked at me, and I told him not to do that. And he said, I did none. That's not true. I didn't do any time in jail. And he kept dwelling on the drug thing and the jail thing. And Johnny was very, very nice about it and finally ended it. But before he left, this interviewer gave him a T-shirt of him with his picture on the front of it. And Johnny just kind of held it in his hand. We put him in the car. We're driving about Market Street to the hotel. And as we got about halfway out there, he was sitting in the front seat. The window came down, and this T-shirt went out the window. Window went back up. Lou said, sorry about that, Johnny. He said, kind of wish the guy was in the car because I'd have thrown him out after the T-shirt. And I said, I told him not to do it. He said, I know you're young. When are you going to learn that don't trust the press? Don't trust TV guys, radio guys. He says, they'll do anything to get their name out there. And I said, well, I got used. I'm sorry. And he said, forget it. And that was the last of it. It really torqued him off that the guy would stab him in the back that way. That was my Johnny Cash story.
Dolly Parton.
Great. First time I met her, she was touring with Merle Haggard. The bus pulled up, and the bus door opened, and she was standing in the busway. I looked at her and went, who is she? She was nobody then. She was just an opening act for Merle Haggard. But certainly found out who she was. I brought her back here to the Oregon State Fair a few years later because she was doing a thing for Willamette. Her boyfriend went to Willamette or something. And I was doing a thing at Willamette that morning. And she showed up and sat in the crowd and listened to the spiel we gave on what we do and how we do it. Sweetheart, just absolute sweetheart. Couldn't have been any nicer. Did everything he wanted to do. Pictures, howdy, everything. Dolly Parton is a sweetheart.
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles was always great to me. Everybody said, you never bring any blacks through. I said, well, I can bring Ray Charles through. He's probably one of the biggest shows we had. He was very nice. Didn't want to do autographs, didn't want to do pictures, but he did them. So He was fussy, but he did it.
Hoyt Axton.
I loved Hoyt Axton. He was fun to be with. He liked to eat. He liked to talk about eating, and he loved to travel. And you could bring him to anybody, and they loved him. Hoyt Axton was to love. We were in Roseburg, because he was from Roseburg, some little town back in the canyon. When he left his wife, he took his ashtray. And he still had it in his bus. This is what I got out of my first marriage. But his movie was playing in Roseburg. Remember his movie?
Gremlins.
Yeah. And it was playing in Roseburg. He says, let's go, because we were there a night early. I says, let's go. He says, but we got to buy milk duds, because I like to throw them around the movie, though. And he walked in there. A few people recognized him. A lot of people didn't recognize him. But he was a hoot. The guy, he was a party animal. The guy was a party animal. I had fun with him, a lot of fun with him. His mother wrote blue suede shoes. He said she made more off that than he'd made off his whole life. She wrote blue suede shoes and gave it to, who sang that? Can't remember.
Yeah.
Because I had him here in town. He was bragging about.
Yeah.
She wrote it, didn't give it to Hoyt. She gave it to me.
Carl Perkins.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. And Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash wrote a lot of Carl Perkins stuff too. And I don't know what happened there. There was a falling out, but it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay, Roy Clark.
Great. Gentleman, on time, musician. His crew was always polite. He was always polite. Just a real gentleman. Of course, maybe because I owned a country western radio station in town with a bunch of guys, and we played his hits, that might have helped. Hello?
Everly Brothers.
Interesting people. First time I had them, buddies. Last time I had them, they were fighting. So we announced them. One came in from this side of the stage. The other one came in this side of the stage. They did their hit. They did their shows. They both left. Don't know what they're at now. That's been years ago, but they were real buddies at one time.
Backstage, they weren't together.
Oh, in fact, the governor, Goldsmith, showed up and he wanted to talk to him, and they said, "We don't want to talk to him," which really helps my spot. You know, don't you run it? Yeah, well, one's probably in Cucamonga by now, and the other one's probably out having a Pronto pup or dog or something. I'll go get them for you and bring them in there, and they'll end up killing one another in front of you. But
yeah, Jan and Dean.
Oh, good people. Jan and Dean were always good people. I didn't get them till after the accident, but Jan was always nice, polite. Dean was the businessman, and they were just good people, and had a lot of fun. And I did them a lot of times because they were one of the bigger hits way back. Yeah, good people.
Two more, Smothers Brothers.
Tommy and those guys, I put them here at the Elsinore. I had them at the fair. I put them a lot of places, and it was always a party. In fact, I called them up one time. We were doing Medford, and I said, Medford's got a lot of wines. I can call the wine people, and they'll bring wines for you to do a wine tasting while you're here. They shipped 2 cases of wines from their winery down there to have there for people here to taste their stuff. And that was kind of cool. Yeah, they were always fun. They loved to pull practical jokes. When we had them somewhere, one of the board members said, "My son is really a fan of them. Can he ride in the car when we pick him up at the airport?" I said, "Sure," because they're fun people. So they go to the airport and they pick him up. And they pick him up, they're fighting. This is what the kid told me. He said they were fighting at the airport, and they put him in the back of the van. About halfway to the fairgrounds, they were on the floor in the van back there, just pounding on one another, just beating on one another. He says, I was so embarrassed I didn't even talk to him. And he said they were yelling and screaming and cussing and just yelling. He says, I didn't know what to do. When they get to the fairgrounds, pull the van up, door opens, they both get out, shake the hand of the driver, they shake the hand of the kid and said, "It's been fun, guys." They put an act on for him. And they didn't get it till after they were out of the van. So they showed up that night to get him, and they started laughing at him. And those two guys just said, "You really scared us," you know. And they thought, "Got to do something." And we weren't having any fun. That was fun to do because you guys ate it. You guys believed it. And they went, "Okay." And they were always doing, you couldn't believe anything they said. You couldn't, whatever they told you. We were sitting in a bar one time after a show, and people walked up and says, "You guys look like the Smothers Brothers." They had that guy convinced that they were not the Smothers Brothers. The guy walked away and they laughed. They thought it was funny. They were always on stage. Tommy and the other one, Tommy and, who do you think was the smartest one and the richest one? There was a smart one, and then there was the big bass player, Tommy. Which one do you think was the smartest and the richest?
Tom.
Yeah, he was. Tom was the smartest one and had the most money.
He comes off that way.
Yeah, he was. He was. And I'll tell you why after the camera's off.
Okay. And then Donny Osmond.
Donny Osmond was a gentleman. Marie was a lady. The boys were wonderful. They were just wonderful. In fact, they played Spokane. The boys did, and I was not there. But they said, yeah, we used to play Salem, and they did. They were very good. They were. I got a call from that safari jungle down in Roseburg saying that we have this leopard, and we'd like to bring it up and have Marie put it in her dressing room because it's tame. I said, no, no wild animals. I know wild animals are different. They change. He brought it anyway. He got hold of Marie, and she said, bring it up. So that leopard was literally in her dressing room on the couch. And it made me very nervous because wild animals are wild animals. That wild animal, a week later, attacked a person and hurt him pretty bad. So I sent it to Marie saying, here's why I don't like to do that. But it did. It hurt the person really bad. And it was just a fluke thing. Someone run by and excited it, and it jumped up and attacked him. Marie was always a sweetheart. She was with her first husband then. He was a basketball player out of Italy or something. He was kind of a jerk, but she made up for it. Mm-hmm. No, you know, looking back the 50 years, met a lot of people, had a lot of fun. I guess what really surprised me is the way some people act around entertainers. They change. It's like they're trying to impress them or something. I'm going, never had that problem, I guess. But they changed. And they treat entertainers like they're different. They're no different. They give you that feeling sometimes, but they're not any different. A lot of them are very lonely, a lot of problems, and they're just trying to find themselves. And I say they're into, you know, they're me people, me, money and ego, and they prove that doesn't work. You know, if there was any entertainers I'd want to hang out with or be with, it'd be Donny Osmond or Paul Revere. Paul Revere and his wife are just wonderful people. God, they're just wonderful people. Fun to be with, in fact, Paul called me up and said, I'm taking a ship out of Florida. I want you on it. I got to perform on it. I want you on it to be with me and for the week. And he flew me down, stayed in a hotel that he owns, and spent a week with Paul. And it was a lot of fun. But I most of them, and the reason is not because I don't like them, it's just we have no common interest. I get tired of listening to me. To me, a good entertainer was one that I could research and get airplay off of, record sales off of, things that would sell tickets. You know, I sit outside of many dance halls where tearing tickets for $1 and $1.25 over a lot of years. And when someone asked me what I did, I said, well, ran entertainment. But basically it would be tear tickets, or Jan would sell tickets, I'd tear tickets. And after it's all over with and done, it was a fun way to do it. Met a lot of people, met a lot of jerks, met a lot of people who are phonies, but it was fun to do.